Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with Chuck Bongiovanni, CEO and co-founder of Majestic Residences franchise system. Anthony, what was the takeaway you had?
I tell you, this was very interesting. Like we've talked about franchises before, we've talked about real estate before, but with their model, you can actually have both.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's the business model to have the franchise, but you can also have the ability to own the land and the building underneath it. So that to me is unique. We've talked about a lot of different franchises, but most of the time we're leasing the land. But here's an opportunity to have both. Or, to me, to be honest, what I thought was super interesting, what he was talking about, they have franchisors who need to lease a home. So this is a great opportunity for an investor, and he even threw down the 1% rule.
Yeah.
Right. Which the 1% rule, Cameron, means that your rent is monthly rent is 1% of what you bought it for, the fair market value, which right now is real difficult to find.
Yeah.
But not only that, can you find it, but he's signing a 5-year lease.
Pretty good.
Like that to me was very interesting. Cam, what was some of your takeaways?
The takeaway I had was, everybody has heard this a million times, but I think this one holds true, that there are riches in niches, right? He talks about how he's been in this industry for however long, saw an opportunity, and then acted on it. And so I think you got some real market insight, right, coming from Chuck on this one. I was not aware that, there's an opportunity, or really that there was another provider other than just big box providers out there for residents or healthcare. So that was a surprise to me. There's certainly going to be the demand if you're looking at this kind of moving forward in the demographics that exist in the U.S. right now. So great opportunity, and there's a pretty low capital requirement to kind of get involved when compared to other kind of franchising opportunities. So great interview by Chuck. Right, Chuck built the largest senior placement franchise in the world after working with over 10,000 families, and who struggled with finding the right care home for their elderly parents. And this is where he saw this opportunity. He launched the only international residential care home franchise in the world, Majestic Residences, which he's going to talk about with us today.
Enjoy the episode.
Take care.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we teach clients how to build wealth and create passive income without the risk of Wall Street.
Chuck, we are excited to have you joining us today. I can't wait to kind of dive into this topic. Before we get started, man, give us a little bit about your background. I know your background is really what led you to see the opportunities that you have here with Majestic Residences.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's great being on the show. And, let me think. Back in 1995, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I got a master's degree in social work. Okay. And at the time, I was newly divorced. I had a 6-month-old baby that I had full custody of. And I realized that social work wasn't going to pay the bills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got involved in home health, which is kind of like taking care of seniors after they've been in the hospital and such. And I noticed a lot of seniors, were in assisted living, but they were in like the wrong place. So I started a company. I looked at it as a private practice of like helping families find assisted living homes and find assisted living places, kind of merged that social work degree into like real estate. So after I'd find out what the family would need, I would take them and show them 2 or 3 places. And then when they moved in, that's how I got paid. And so I eventually worked that up into a national franchise system. Had 155 offices, I believe, in 37 states, and sold that to private equity in 2018. And then right in the middle of a pandemic, when everyone else was freaking out, I saw the opportunity and started another franchise system. This one was actually residential senior homes. So kind of the opposite of what I was doing before.
So what was it in 2018, or I'm sure you saw the opportunity before, but we're just acting on it then. What was it that you saw as far as the opportunity that you're taking advantage right now?
Well, first of all, starting a franchise for the second time is much easier than the first time.
Yeah, I would imagine.
made all those mistakes the first time. So my franchisees on this end are much more happier, shall we say. I stayed with the private equity firm for a couple of years before I started this company. And I really just saw, when the pandemic hit, I saw a lot of fear in the assisted living world, and especially in these small residential care homes, who don't have the backing of a corporate office to really help and guide them. So I saw the opportunity of partnering with some that are already opening, and partnering with entrepreneurs who are looking for something a little passive, to create some standardization in the industry and come out as the brand leader.
Chuck, maybe you could help me as I was preparing for this, is I was reading a lot of kind of information. Could you explain to me kind of the difference between like home health care, residential care homes?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned just one other one. I forget exactly what it was, but I think there's some differences that would help if we touch on those first.
Sure. A home health company is a Medicare certified agency that has like nurses and certified nurses assistants that would come to a senior's home very short term. We're talking 20 minutes, 30-minute stops to help them with hospitalization or physical therapy, post hospitalization kind of issues. A residential care home is a place where the seniors actually live. So they are in, residential neighborhoods. Based on the state, they can have 6 to 16 residents in them. And again, that's fully dependent on the state regs. And I'm willing to bet, there's over 30,000 of them across the nation. I'm willing to bet that any listener you have has one within a mile of their home, and they don't even know it. I actually placed someone literally next door to their home, and they had no idea it was an assisted living home. It was crazy.
30,000 seems like a huge number.
Yeah, it's a very fragmented industry. You pretty much have, out of the 30,000, maybe you have 25,000 individual owners. So you have 25,000 people trying to figure out how to give care, how to market, how to brand. And it's very, very, very fragmented. And I saw that. And part of that fragmentation is where a franchise system can really take advantage of that to create standards and create, one large brand.
So right, again, you're not talking about the facility that I see down the street, right? The big home, right? You're talking about like a residence where people are in there. It's kind of in a community. Is that right?
Yeah, the ones you see down the street, on the main streets, we call big boxes.
Okay.
Because they're just that. They're a big box with seniors in them. They have, apartments and stuff, but, our residents have their own bedroom and a home and such. And they usually need a little bit more care than those in the big box who can take care of themselves a little bit more than the residents that we have.
Now, Chuck, as I had mentioned a little bit, we got into it before we started, but my mom's actually in a big box right now.
Okay.
It's difficult for everybody, with that transition and then being there.
Yeah.
What are the advantages? I guess I'm talking from the consumer side, but what's the advantages of a person staying in a residential place as opposed to a big box?
Great question. Well, when you think about it, there's a lot more staff per person in a smaller home. Now, when you go to the big box, they may have, 6 people working in the cafeteria and, in the dining room meeting and they might have 2 hairdressers, but, they don't have actual caregiver ratios that our homes do. So we're looking at about 1 caregiver for every 5 residents. The big boxes, you're looking at about 1 to actual 20. Now, they may say they're 1 to 5, but they're counting that guy who cuts the lawn, and they're counting the secretaries, and they're counting staff to resident ratio as opposed to caregiver resident ratio. And the other thing is, a lot of times in these big places, mom has to walk, 1,200 feet, 2,000 feet to the dining room. And for some,
maybe even go upstairs. Like my mom has to go upstairs or at the elevator.
Yeah. So this is all, on one level home, and, the caregivers know what's going on all the time because, they can be in their room watching TV if they want, but no one is like hundreds and hundreds of feet away where they can't get to them quickly.
So Chuck, tell me or tell the listeners, right, how is this kind of residential care home facility like a franchisable business or business model?
Yeah, sure. So, when people are looking for care, they go to those big boxes a lot because they already know their name. They drive by every day. The name is well known. Some of the bigger places have like 800 different communities across the United States. So with franchising Majestic Residences, we wanted to create a national brand where people would know our name as much as they would know the bigger places. So our model is looking at being the biggest of the smalls. You know what I'm saying? The biggest brand in the small facility. So, we give them, first of all, we get them licensed by the state, policies and procedures, programming, marketing, the whole 9 yards. So they really just have to, run the business, but we have, the old cliche of running a business in a box is what we offer.
What is who's being drawn to kind of this? Is it somebody with more of a franchise background, or is it an investor, or maybe a little bit of both?
Well, not necessarily franchising. I have maybe a couple of franchisees that have some franchise backgrounds, but we're looking right now. I'm seeing more of those who want to invest in just owning the building and leasing it to our franchisees are real estate investors. Our actual franchisees come from all walks of life. So our regular franchisee path, they would come in and they would buy or lease a home. We would get it licensed, get them operational, get them going, and then they would hire an administrator to actually run the business. Someone who hires and fires and oversees the business on an everyday situation. Because we want our franchisees, we don't want them working in the business. We want them working on the business. We want them to be able to open up 2, 3, 4, 5 homes rather than be in one of the homes and working all day. And, we don't want our franchisees to be caregivers.
Okay.
That's interesting. Is there like a sweet spot then as far as like the number of homes that somebody should own or could own? I don't know.
For someone with great hair that you do,
Chuck.
You have some great questions.
Doesn't he? Yeah, great questions and great hair.
Great hair.
Not just a pretty face, Chuck.
There you go. Yeah, the sweet spot is usually 3 homes. For them to do extremely well in the business. Your first home, of course, you're not scaled like you would have 2 or 3 homes. So with 3 homes, you can hire one administrator to look over all 3. So his or her salary and such is, divided over 3 homes instead of 1.
Okay, interesting.
How big of a staff do you need, right, for like a facility?
So let's say you have 10 residents in your home. So 10. Let me back up a little bit. 10 residents.
Sorry, sorry. Before you said 10, so then I automatically thought, how big is the house? What is there a good house that's a good fit? Yeah,
that's where I was going.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So you could buy, let's say, a 5-bedroom single level home with an attached garage. Now we can convert the garage into, let's say, 2 or 3 more bedrooms. So now we're at 8 bedrooms. Your master suite is usually a husband and wife. So now we have 9 residents. And then we take another room and make it a semi-private. So now we have 10 residents. So, you're looking at about, including the addition onto the garage to convert them into bedrooms, 28 to 3,500 square feet. So, it's not, a typical 4 or 5 bedroom home is good as long as there's a, one good size activity or TV room, those kinds of things.
And then the staffing, did you mention that? What kind of staff? Yeah, what kind of staffing do you need for that?
Yeah, so you don't need nurses. They just need to be certified caregivers, and the state certifies them. So with 10 residents, you'd usually run two caregivers at an 8-hour shifts, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, 1 at night. 8 beds, you're looking at, 1 person in the day, 1 in the evening, 1 at night, and then a 12-hour shift during that day from like 7 to 7. So you have like 1.5 staff members. Actually, you know what I'm saying. You have 2 staff members usually working during those heavy hours.
And the qualifications, or how? Well, you said that the qualifications, so they're caregiver. I don't understand the difference. And then how difficult is it to find caregivers?
And to keep them?
Yeah.
Keep them. Yeah. Well, keeping them has to do with culture, because I really believe people don't leave jobs, they leave people, So we really work hard with our franchisees to develop a really good culture in the home. So the caregivers, I mean, we actually call our caregivers resident ambassadors. So we give them a little bit more, a little more stratus, shall we say, or status, in the home itself. They have to go through I believe in some states it's like a 40-hour training program. Mm-hmm. So it isn't too extensive, but enough to understand how to help a senior go from the bed to standing, and how to help them, assisting them with walking or eating or feeding and those kinds of things. So we don't need any kind of nurses, and that administrator usually has to have X amount of years as a caregiver. Then they take a class that their state runs or state approves to become an actual administrator in one of the homes.
Now, Chuck, I would say one concern that pops into my mind is the liability and risk. We're providing care for people who. Thank you, Cameron. We're providing.
Time you got one in there.
My hair is as good as yours, so it takes me a little time to get good questions. But what's the risk on the franchisor and the owner of the real estate?
Sure. Great question. Owner of the real estate is pretty much nil if they have regular insurance, because they're not responsible for, the business per se. We have very good vendors who are specialized in insurance specifically for our industry. The only real concern is just blatant neglect or abuse. Leaving the residents alone in their home without a caregiver and something happens, those kinds of things. But the state does a really good job with their regulations, and we do a good job with our policy and procedure to really minimize that. I've been in the industry for 33 years now, and I can tell you every once in a while do I hear of some kind of lawsuit, and it's usually something where the resident escaped from the home and unfortunately got hit by a car or something like that. But if you're following the policy and procedures, those things are a complete minimum.
How many franchises are there of Majestic residences?
Right. Well, we have 10 that are actually physically open, and another 15 that are in the process of either building, finding a home, trying to get funding, and we have about 60 people in the pipeline right now.
What markets are you in?
Arizona, California, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Colorado, Dominican Republic. We actually went international, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at you, Chuck. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
I don't have any hair at all.
Yeah. Chuck Worldwide Bon Jovi. Of the 30, is it pretty competitive? To me, it sounds like there's kind of a niche here between kind of that big box and then in-home or forget the other model. But is it competitive?
It is and it isn't. Okay. And I don't want to sound conceited, but the other residential care homes around us, we don't consider them competition, because some of the programs and technology we have just blows them all out of the water. We look at it as we are competing against the big boxes, the big facilities that everyone knows. Those are the ones we feel that we're competing against. And that has to do with our technology that we have in our homes. Let me give you an example. We're the only residential care homes in the nation that uses a radio wave technology, and the radio waves actually determine whether an adult brief is wet or not, and then it alerts the caregiver. It's crazy stuff.
Wow.
We built a kind of like a Netflix for seniors, so they can watch TV shows, I Love Lucy, stuff that they grew up with, rather than getting in front of the TV and watching Jerry Springer or something like that. They can watch old movies, and we put a music group together. We call it the Majestic Melodies. They sing songs from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We make them into like TV shows, and we stream them to the home. So we have, and plus all of our homes have full electronic medical records, just like the hospitals do. And only like 4% of residential care homes have that kind of technology. So we don't really consider the homes down the street competition. We're competing against the big guys.
Now, I know we're kind of talking about two different kind of business models. One is the franchise of the operations, and one is the real estate. Mm-hmm. With the franchise piece, what are some of the numbers? Like, how much capital do we need? and what sort of expectations are of the franchisee as far as
Sure.
time?
Great. Franchisee, as far as capital, that really is going to depend on the home that they purchase. You can purchase a home for, 500,000, put maybe $100,000 into it, and you're into it 600,000, or you could buy $1 million house. So that number is going to fluctuate. Our
Okay.
franchise fee is 49,500, for the licensing and the whole program. Other than that, they're going to need some capital for just running the business. We like to have like 3 months of payroll, stacked away for them. That's what we recommend for them. If they're leasing the home from an investor, you're looking at first month, last month, maybe a security deposit, and then maybe some renovation if needed. But a lot less if they're leasing than if they are owning. And as far as the renovation goes, we talked about the garage. We definitely always want to convert a garage. The other one that usually is they take one of the bathrooms and they keep the commode in it. We take away any kind of cabinetry, have a stand-up single pedestal sink, and then we take out the bathtub, create one huge walk-in shower. We'll probably tile, 3/4 of the room, just make one big spa-looking kind of thing.
Yeah.
And most people ask about, oh my God, what about HOAs? And there's a little law. I'm being sarcastic here. There's a little law that's called the Federal Fair Housing Act that cannot stop one of these homes from opening up in an HOA neighborhood. The only thing an HOA can do is say you got to keep the garage door on. So you build a fake wall behind the garage door, punch out some windows on the other sides for egress, and there you go.
What about the neighbors? How's that typically received from them?
It's funny because the neighbors, we do a really good education with the neighbors because most of them think, oh my God, we're going to have ambulances every day.
Yeah, that's kind of
tons of people, if there's 10 residents there, there's going to be 10 cars. Well, these, our residents, they don't drive anymore, And so you're looking at probably the same amount of cars as any family. You're going to have, 1 or 2 caregivers there. So you may have 2 cars. And then you might have one family visiting, at lunch, or 2 families visiting at dinner. So like I said, there was a lady that I placed before right next door. She had no idea it was a care home. And usually I notice the people who complain the most in a neighborhood are the first ones that place mom or dad in the home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the residents paying? You'd mentioned that you could potentially have 10. I'm sure it varies by market, but can you give us some idea of what they're paying?
Yeah, the average right now is about in the nation, it's about $4,200 per person per month. We average anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 more. So our residents are paying between $5,500 and $6,000 per month per resident, per family.
All right, so simple math. We have 10 residents and assuming it's full, it's a lot of money. Your caregivers,
your staffing is going to take about 45% of that or so. You can do well doing this business. You want to right after, of course. You're working a little bit towards that break-even point, but usually in a 10-bed home, if you're running it right, bed 8, 9, and 10 are usually profitability. Sometimes a little earlier than that, but 8, 9 or 10 for a 10-bed home.
Are there leases as far as I honestly don't know. If somebody moves into a facility, are they signing on for a certain amount of time? How does that work?
It's month to month because we can't predict when someone will either pass away or need to go to a nursing home. And the other path we have is more of a real estate model where we have investors across the country who are normally investing in single residential properties, and they decide to rent to our franchisees, usually by a 5-year lease, sometimes lease to own, and their rent it's a premium rent compared to just renting it out to a family. I've heard in the real estate market that those larger bedroom homes, they're not making as much profit per se than the 3-bedroom homes right now. But this is a way for the investor to rent or buy a 5-bedroom home, either pay for the renovation or not pay for the renovation. That will affect the exit after 5 years, of course. If the investor pays for the 3 bedrooms, then when they sell the house, it's going to be appraised for an 8-bedroom house as opposed to a 5-bedroom house if the franchisee pays for it. And we're leasing right now about the old, that magical 1% that we always hear about.
Yeah.
The magic 1%.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Still looking for it.
Well,
Yeah.
we have it. I mean, our franchisees are doing very well with that.
Well,
Interesting. I was thinking to check the note that I made down is right. You hear about a lot of people that got into Airbnbs and their zoning and restrictions, and they're looking for a pivot.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe this is a great opportunity for someone to take a look at.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about anyone leaving at 2:00 in the morning with your stove and your refrigerator and all your copper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's long term. They're there for 5 years. Our franchise agreement is 5 years, and it's renewable. So you have a 5-year resident at least, or 5-year leasee, and looking right now at the market. I buy a home right now thinking that within 5 years it'll recover. So buy it a little lower right now as the prices go down, and as they go back up again in 5 years, you have that person for 5. You're guaranteed, and plus, you have a franchisor looking over the house too. So we want to make sure the home stays in great shape.
When these residents get in there, is this typically covered, the care or the expense covered by insurance? Is it out of pocket? What do you see?
It's usually private pay. Long-term care insurance will pay for it. And some of our homes do take Medicaid, depending on the reimbursement rate in the state.
What have been some of the biggest obstacles you've kind of ran into while building this franchise model?
I tell you right now, it hasn't been operational. My first franchise was operational, but I made all those mistakes. This one here right now is just funding. It's with the interest rates going up and such, some of the banks are requiring a lot more experience, to give a business loan and such. So that's why we're really trying to push through the leasing option and getting investors in, so they get that experience, and then they can go buy another house.
What's something if maybe somebody doesn't understand, if you meet with a franchisee, is there a topic or two that you typically present to them that they haven't seen or aren't aware of?
Yeah, I think sometimes people, when they first hear about this, they think about, well, I have 10 seniors in my room or in my house, and they're paying $4, $5, $6 a month. This is great. And they think it's like the Golden Girls. It's not the Golden Girls.
Okay, wait a minute. We got it. Hold up, Chuck.
Yep.
This won't be a surprise to you, but would you believe Golden Girls is Cameron's favorite TV show?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought it would be some Mario Lopez show or something.
Extra.
You think so, right? But man, those girls were hilarious.
Because sometimes people think, well, these ladies, they can take care of themselves. They go to Walmart every day with each other. They all pile in each other's cars and they go out to lunch. No, these people need care. So, we're caring for them 24/7. Now, a lot of them are a little bit more independent than others, but they're not driving. They're not going out and going out at night and coming home at bars and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What kind of access does family have, right? Are they able to come and go as they please? What does that look like?
24/7. Yeah, 24/7. Yeah, it's important to us. It's important to them too.
Awesome.
I don't know, man. My mind's just reeling. I like both opportunities, right? If we want to create a business, there's an opportunity here. And honestly, and I can speak from experience. I mean, my mom's in assisted living and about to go into memory care.
Yeah.
And to be able to find a facility that's going to take care of mom the way that we want her to is very difficult. And she's in one of the big boxes. But you're right. She's not going out. I mean, most of the time, even most of the residents, they're staying in their room or they're going out to eat. They really don't leave. But I could see the advantages of having some more. I think some more one-on-one care.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like her facility, I think there might be 50 people. Right. And
and sometimes they're in their room all day and that's it. They're only coming out for lunch. And so, with our homes, they're seeing the other residents all the time, I mean, of course they can have alone time if they want, but you know what I'm saying? It's a little different than going to my room after every meal and coming out just for meals and maybe an activity or two.
We had some family friends that renovated a rental property. This is years ago. I was talking to Anthony before, maybe 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that they renovated it, and they had, I think, 6 beds that they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful facility, but they had a hard time keeping people in there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one of our fortes. Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were just kind of ahead of the curve, right? If it's a bad timing as far as, demographics go.
Right.
What is the type of demand that's out there? How big is this industry?
It's a big demand, but residential care homeowners are not marketers,
You're
so
right, yeah.
that's where the problem comes. But that's where an advantage comes with us because being the founder of the largest senior placement company in the nation has advantages. I no longer own the company, but I know all the franchisees, and I was the founding president of the National Trade Association for these residential placement agents. So I know hundreds and hundreds of them that do a great job filling our homes for us. But we also have SEO that, professional SEO company we work with, where a small residential care home owner can't afford that, but because of scale, we provide that for them. So it's kind of like having the marketing of the big boxes, but in a smaller setting where they normally couldn't afford to do any of those things.
No, and I think a lot of people aren't aware that there are more intimate facilities. They just think of the big boxes.
Yeah.
And most people, first thing they do is they Google
Mm-hmm.
and they look for it. And I could see that marketing arm being beneficial to the owner.
Chuck, I think I heard you say you got 10 franchises now. Maybe 15 to 20 that are kind of waiting on funding and all that stuff. What's your vision for this? Where do you want it to go? How big do you want it to scale? How quickly do you want it to scale?
Well, anyone could always say, "Hey, we want 1,000," but
yeah,
realistically, I think we're looking at 200 to 300,
okay.
And then see what happens. See what happens after that.
Perfect. And then one more time, who's this a good fit for? Who do you think? Right, if somebody's listening and there's a certain skill set. Hey, I own a property that I maybe want to renovate. Who's this good for?
It's that for the first path, it's that real estate investor that has been investing in residential homes, right, and waiting for that family to move in. And this is a much better opportunity for him or her. The franchise side, someone who has business experience, of course, who knows how to work with people, run a staff. The cool thing on the franchise side is not only do they make the profitability from the franchise business, but they also pay themselves a lease for the home too. Mm-hmm. So it's even bigger for those who own the home and also run the franchise itself. We're looking for people that, we want the owners to know the family members because that's important to the family members. So someone who's personable, they're not working a lot of hours at all in the home. I mean, if they have a good manager, they're checking in with the manager once a day by phone. They would probably show up at the home every once in a while, so everyone, knows that the boss is in town. But someone who understands business, because we want people who will open up more than just one.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And if somebody's looking, somebody fits that bill, where can they find you, Chuck? How can they reach you?
Yeah, both the investor and the potential franchisee can go to www.discovermajesticresidences.com. And there's a ton of information on that. Once they fill out a form that says start your journey, they'll click either investor or franchisee, and then they'll start getting information by email. They'll set up some meetings with me and the rest of the staff. And it's about a 6 to 7, 8 week due diligence process on both sides. It isn't just, hey, Chuck, I want to be a franchisee. Here's my check. We're vetting both ways.
What's that? What was that vetting process? What are you looking for?
Honestly, one of the things we look for is can they follow instructions, and that simple. Because
Anthony's out. Anthony's
out.
not in.
A franchise system is all about steps and standards and procedures. So we want to make sure that they will, they're not cutting corners. They can follow instructions. We make sure that financially they have the money to have that money for capital so they can be successful. As you know, worst thing for any business is starting out without enough capital to be successful. Looking for people again who are caring and who understand what a family may be going through during this process. When people call me and I start meeting with them and their first question is how much money I can make, it's usually someone we don't want to work with, because the money comes as you do well and as you do good for your residents. It just happens. I've seen it too many times and I've seen too many people that are in it for the money only, and they either don't start or they close within a couple of years or so, because families can pick up on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great way to give back. So I hear that a lot from my franchisees when we talk about why do you want to do this? Well, I've been successful in the corporate world. We want to slow things down, but we really want to start giving back to the community.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Cool. There's definitely a need out there, and man, what a great opportunity, Chuck. Thank you for joining us today and kind of sharing this opportunity with our listeners.
I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, check out our website, infinitewealthconsultants.com, to find our podcast along with other additional resources.